They say timing is everything. I never thought it would matter so much until that Tuesday in late April when I clocked out of work 2 hours early. I wasn't planning anything special. Just had a pounding headache, the kind that wraps around your skull like a vice. Boss told me to go home, rest up. Said I looked like hell. Maybe I did. Either way, I wasn't going to argue. I grabbed my things, signed out, and hit the road. The sky was that dull gray, overcast like it was trying to rain but couldn't quite work up the nerve. I drove slow, windows down just a crack for the breeze. The whole way home, I was looking forward to nothing more than a long nap and maybe catching the second half of the Braves game. Just a quiet evening with my wife, Emily. Emily and I had been married 6 years. Not perfect, not some fairy tale, but we were comfortable, or so I thought. She had that way of smiling at me that made the world feel solid, like no matter what else went sideways, we were good. I trusted her with everything. Maybe that was my first mistake. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed her car already there. I figured she must have gotten off early too. That should have been a good thing. I even smiled as I turned off the ignition. Maybe we could order takeout, curl up on the couch. Just be lazy together. God, I was naive. I didn't make any noise coming in. Habit, I guess. She always said I was quiet as a cat. I pushed the door open and stepped into the living room, already slipping off my boots when I heard her laugh. At first, I thought she was on the phone. That high, sing-song kind of laugh she used when she was trying to impress someone. I froze, one boot in hand, just listening. Then I heard her say it. Clear as anything. I mean, he was young, like, way younger than me. But God, the things he did to me in that car. I haven't felt that alive in years. And poor Jake has no idea. He thinks I picked the guy up to be nice. I went still. Like dead still. I didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Just stood there, boot half off, blood draining from my face. Jake. That was me. My wife was bragging, laughing, about cheating on me. In our house. While I was supposed to be at work. I took one step closer to the hallway, slow and careful. Her voice carried just fine. She was in the kitchen, talking to someone. Sounded like a friend on speakerphone, maybe Jenny or Lisa. One of the girls she gossiped with every Tuesday over wine. I don't even feel bad, she said, like it was nothing. It's not like Jake's been paying attention to me lately. Always tired, always working. And this guy? He just, God, he knew what he was doing. Tall, dark, and that smile. I just offered him a ride and next thing you know, I'm pulling over and I couldn't listen anymore. I backed away from the hallway, slow and silent. I didn't want her to know I'd heard. Not yet. My heart was thudding in my chest, and not from the headache anymore. My hands were cold. My jaw clenched so tight I thought it might snap. I didn't know what to do in that moment. Cry? Scream? Confront her? No. I did what I do best. I kept quiet. I sat down on the edge of the couch, staring blankly at the floor, and started thinking. My mind worked faster than it ever had before, cold and sharp like a scalpel. If she wanted to play games, I could play better. I was going to get my revenge. But first, I had to pretend I didn't know a thing. I sat on that couch for maybe 10 minutes, staring at nothing. The kind of stare that burns through the carpet like you're trying to see into another world. My brain was on fire. I felt betrayed, sure. But more than that, I felt insulted. Mocked. She didn't just cheat. She laughed about it. Like I was some clueless idiot with a "kick me" sign taped to my back. And what made it worse was how casual she sounded, like cheating on your husband with some stranger from the side of the road was no bigger deal than ordering the wrong coffee. I heard the clink of a wine glass on the counter, and her voice again, soft now. Anyway, I gotta go. Jake'll be home soon. Love you, girl. A pause. Yeah, maybe. If I see him again, I'll let you know. The call ended. My blood ran cold. She was thinking about seeing him again. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared. She was planning. Footsteps came down the hall. I snapped out of my daze and stood up, quick and natural-like. I forced a smile just as she rounded the corner into the living room, her expression lighting up like a bulb. "Oh. You're home early," she said, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her voice was smooth, relaxed. Her lips still curved from whatever joke she'd just told her friend. That same mouth that had just bragged about cheating on me. "Yeah, boss let me off early. Headache." I gave her a smile I didn't feel. Figured I'd come crash at home. She stepped in and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, acting like nothing was wrong. "Ah, poor baby. Want some tea?" "Tea sounds good." And just like that, we slipped into our routine. The one where she pretends she's a loving wife and I pretend I don't know she's a liar. I watched her move through the kitchen, graceful and comfortable, like she owned the place. Like she hadn't just flipped our marriage upside down for a quick thrill. I sat at the table and said nothing. Just watched. She made chamomile tea. My usual. That hurt the most, how she could still remember the little things about me while forgetting the big ones. Like respect. Loyalty. Love. She handed me the mug and sat down across from me, legs crossed under her sundress, hair tied up in a bun like she always did when she was relaxed at home. It was like looking at a stranger in my wife's skin. "How was work?" she asked, sipping her own drink. I shrugged. "Long hot. You know how it is." She smiled, nodding. "Well, you're home now. Maybe we can watch a movie later. Just us." I looked her dead in the eyes and nodded. "Yeah. Just us." I said it like I meant it. Because I did, just not the way she thought. See, the thing about revenge is that it tastes better slow. It's got to simmer. Let the flavors mix. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg her to explain. That's what she'd expect. That's what a weak man does. But I'm not a weak man. That night, after she went to bed, I sat out on the back porch with a notepad and a cold beer, and I started writing down a plan. I don't mean just vague ideas. I mean details, timelines, passwords, patterns. I knew her schedule better than she did. I knew the people she trusted. I knew the lies she told because they were always the same ones. And most importantly, I knew how to make someone pay without ever raising a hand. This wasn't just about getting even. This was about making her regret ever thinking I'd be too stupid to notice. I took one last sip of my beer and stared up at the stars. The night sky stretched out above me like a black canvas with little pinholes of light. Peaceful. Quiet. But not for long. Because I was going to take everything from her. Piece by piece. And she'd never see it coming. I barely slept that night. Not because of anger, at least, not the loud, red kind. No, this was colder. Cleaner. Like ice water in my veins. I lay beside her, still as stone, while she snored softly with one hand draped across my chest like nothing had happened. Every time she shifted in her sleep, my mind shifted with her. That stranger in her passenger seat. What did he look like? What did he say to her to make her toss our vows out the window? Was it charm? Youth? Was I just too ordinary for her now? Questions swirled like smoke, but I didn't let them distract me. Emotions make you sloppy. I wasn't about to make that mistake. By morning, I had a rough blueprint in my head. Step 1, learn everything. Emily wasn't exactly tech-savvy. She had this habit of reusing the same password variations for everything: pet names, birthdays, our wedding date. She thought she was clever, adding exclamation points or swapping letters for numbers, but I knew her tricks. I'd helped her set up half her accounts. Email, social media, phone cloud backup. I had access to all of it within a few hours. I waited until she left for work that morning. Kissed her goodbye on the porch like a good little husband. She drove off in that same car, the one she'd cheated in, with the same carefree hum she always had. She didn't have the slightest clue. The moment her taillights disappeared down the street, I got to work. I opened her laptop and logged into her email. At first, it was innocent stuff: work reminders, online shopping, gossip threads with her girlfriends. But then I found one labeled "Hitchhiker face blowing a kiss." My chest tightened. I opened it. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. That ride felt like a movie scene. Let me know if you want to pick me up again this weekend. Same spot. There were pictures attached. Nothing graphic, thank God, but there was a selfie of him, sitting in her passenger seat with his shirt off, grinning like he owned the world. Dark hair, tattoos, maybe 25. Lean and cocky. Not a damn trace of shame in his face. I forwarded the email to myself, then every other message between them, and downloaded all the images. I made backups, encrypted drives, even sent a copy to a cloud account under a fake name I set up that morning. Just in case. You don't go to war without protecting your ammo. Over the next few days, I kept playing the part of the loving husband. Dinners, jokes, kisses. I even brought home flowers one night just to watch her fake gratitude up close. I'd never felt more alone in my life, even with her sitting 2 feet away. But I kept smiling. I kept gathering. Her calendar showed she'd be at a conference this weekend. That lined up a little too perfectly with his last message. Same spot. Same time. Same excuse she always gave when she wanted a free weekend to be someone else. I didn't say a word. Just waited. Because step 2 was coming, and it wasn't about learning anymore. It was about watching. Saturday came around like a slow drumbeat. I woke up before her. Made coffee. Acted like everything was fine, like my stomach wasn't tied in knots and my jaw hadn't been clenched all night. Emily shuffled into the kitchen wearing one of my shirts, yawning like a sleepy little angel. She kissed my cheek and grabbed a mug like she always did. "So," I said, keeping my tone easy, "what time's your conference?" She looked up over her cup. "Oh, 11. Out by the lake. Some hotel resort." I nodded. "You driving or carpooling with one of the girls?" She hesitated, just for a second. "Driving myself." Of course she was. "Need me to fill up the tank before you go?" She smiled and shook her head. "Already did yesterday. I'm all set." It was a perfect lie, neat and packaged with a bow. She'd rehearsed it. I could see it in the way her eyes didn't flicker. She'd told herself a story so many times, she actually believed it. I smiled back. "Alright, babe. Knock 'em dead." She left around 10:30, makeup perfect, hair done up, overnight bag slung over her shoulder. I watched her back out of the driveway from the window, heart thudding slow and heavy in my chest. And then I moved. I grabbed the keys to my truck and headed out the side street, taking the long way around the neighborhood. I knew she'd take Route 12, she always did when she wanted to avoid traffic. And I knew the spot, too. I'd looked up the GPS coordinates from the guy's first text. It was an old rest stop off the highway, long abandoned, halfway between town and nowhere. I pulled off the road a mile early and parked my truck behind a dense patch of pine trees. I walked the rest of the way on foot, through mud and weeds and thorns, staying low and slow like I was stalking a deer. At exactly 11:18, her car pulled in. My heart almost stopped. There she was, my wife, pulling into that gravel lot like she was meeting an old friend. She parked under the shade of a leaning oak and waited. I crouched low behind a busted billboard maybe 30 yards away. She sat there with the windows cracked, tapping her fingers on the steering wheel. Her hair was down now, makeup fresh. Lip gloss shimmering. At 11:27, he showed up. The hitchhiker. Same guy from the photo. Black t-shirt, smug as ever. He walked up to her door like he'd done it 100 times. She leaned across the seat and popped it open. He got in like he belonged there. And then she leaned over and kissed him. Not a little peck. Not a guilty glance-around kiss. A full-on, hands in his hair, mouth-on-mouth kiss. I felt like throwing up. But I didn't move. I watched. They talked for a few minutes, laughing about something. Then the car shifted into gear and rolled out of the lot, back toward the highway, back toward that hotel she claimed was a conference. I waited until they were gone. Waited until the dust settled. Then I walked back to my truck and sat there in silence, fists clenched against the steering wheel. I had seen enough. Now it was time for step 3. Because revenge isn't just about pain. It's about precision. And mine was coming. I didn't drive home after I saw them leave that old rest stop. Instead, I made a quiet detour, to the same hotel she claimed was hosting her little conference. I'd done my homework. Called the place a couple nights earlier, pretending to be with her company, asked about availability and ballroom rental for that weekend. The guy at the desk? Real helpful. Said there were no corporate bookings at all. Just a regular weekend crowd, mostly couples. Honeymooners. Romantic getaways. That was all I needed to hear. So now, as I pulled into the gravel lot and parked a few rows over from her car, yep, the same one she'd used to give him a ride, I felt strangely calm. Like the sick part of me that had been twisting around in my gut had finally settled down. I wasn't here to confront her. Not yet. Not to blow up. Not to beg. No, I was here to gather facts. Quiet. Patient. The front desk was just inside the big wood frame lodge, built like one of those old lake resorts with wide porches and flower boxes. A teenage kid in a polo shirt barely looked up when I walked in. Hey, quick question, I said, using the same fake name I'd used earlier in the week. I booked a room for my cousin and his wife, but I forgot to write down which one. They said it was under the name Emily Winters. I just want to surprise them with a bottle of wine. He nodded and clicked away at the computer for a moment. Winters, yep. Room 206. Perfect, I smiled. Thanks, man. I didn't go straight there. I waited. Out in the parking lot. In my truck. Window cracked, engine off. I watched people come and go, couples with towels and drinks, sunburned and smiling. But my eyes stayed on the front doors. And just before 1 o'clock, I saw them. Emily and him, her hitchhiker boy toy, walking hand in hand. She was wearing sunglasses and that floral sundress I'd bought her last summer. The one she said made her feel like a goddess. He was all swagger and smirk. They disappeared into the stairwell. I waited 5 minutes. 10. Just enough time for them to get comfortable. Then I got out. I took the long way in. Avoided the front desk. Walked the halls like I belonged there. Second floor. Room 206. I stopped a few doors down, pulled out my phone, and placed it flat on the floor. Camera angle just right. I'd already opened the voice memo app. Hit record. I didn't need much. Just a few seconds. A minute, maybe. What I heard? Moaning. Laughing. Her voice, playful. Breathless. And his, low and smug. I picked up the phone and walked away. Fast. When I got back to my truck, I sat for a long time. No music. No engine. Just me and the audio clip playing on a loop in my hand. There she was. My wife. Giving everything that used to be mine to someone who hadn't earned a damn thing. I didn't cry. Not even once. I just started thinking. Planning. Because now I had what I needed. Proof. And with proof comes power. She'd thought I was blind. A fool. A safe little husband too boring to ask questions. But now she was going to learn something important. The quiet ones? We're the ones you should fear the most. By the time I got home that evening, the sun was dipping low and casting long shadows over the front yard. I parked my truck out back so Emily wouldn't notice I'd returned early. The house was still, just the way I left it. I sat at the kitchen table with a cold beer and played that audio clip again. I wasn't torturing myself, I was studying it. Every second of her giggle, every gasp, every sweet little lie she fed him while still wearing my ring, I let it roll through my ears until it became background noise. Until it lost its power to hurt me. Now it just fueled me. By the time Emily came home Sunday afternoon, smelling faintly of hotel shampoo and motel soap, I was back to being the loving, dopey husband again. "Hey, babe," she called out, dropping her bag at the door. That conference was a snooze fest. I swear, if I have to sit through another PowerPoint about leadership growth. I peeked around the corner, smiling like a man with nothing on his mind but her. "You want coffee? Or wine?" She grinned. "Wine, definitely." My head's pounding. As I poured her a glass, I realized something. She was never going to come clean. Not even a little bit. That part of her? Gone. She was going to lie until she died. And that's when I knew how I'd get her back. See, some people think revenge means shouting matches, throwing plates, burning clothes on the lawn. But that kind of noise is easy to ignore. Temporary. It only makes the guilty feel justified. But the kind of revenge I was after? It would be slow. Precise. Surgical. I started with her phone. She left it on the counter while she showered. I mirrored it to an app on my laptop, text messages, GPS, call logs. All of it streamed in real time. I even set it up to record her calls. Then I started leaving little hints. Just enough to put her on edge. One morning, I changed the lock screen on her phone to a photo of her and the hitchhiker at that rest stop. A screenshot I'd captured from her deleted messages. She froze when she saw it. "Did you touch my phone?" she asked, voice tight. I played dumb. "What are you talking about? This isn't my background. Did you mess with it?" I frowned, walked over, and looked. "That's weird. I didn't touch it." She blinked. I didn't take this. Maybe it's a glitch?" I offered with a shrug. Phones are always syncing with the cloud these days. She nodded slowly, forcing a laugh. But I saw it in her eyes, that little crack of fear. The start of doubt. I let her marinate in that feeling for the next few days. Moved her keys. Left the car unlocked. Changed the time on the oven by 2 minutes. Little stuff. Just enough to make her wonder if she was losing her mind. And all the while, I was collecting more dirt. Texts. Calls. Photos. Even one audio file where she told him, he still doesn't suspect a thing. I labeled that one final straw.mp3. But I wasn't done yet. Because if I wanted this revenge to really stick, it couldn't just be personal. It had to be public. And I knew exactly when and where to do it. Her birthday was coming up. She was already planning a backyard get-together, family, friends, co-workers. The whole crowd. She'd even started ordering decorations and wine, humming to herself in the evenings like everything was perfect. Perfect. I smiled at her from across the room as she scribbled guest lists and picked out cake flavors. She had no idea. Because the man she thought she married, the harmless, quiet, dependable guy, he was already gone. The party was set for the last Saturday in June. Emily called it a low-key birthday bash. Nothing fancy, just close friends and family. Her parents would be there. Her sister, too. A couple of co-workers she always talked about but never introduced me to, probably because they knew too much. Maybe even that girl with the red hair she always texted late at night when she thought I wasn't paying attention. And me? I played the part of the doting husband to perfection. I trimmed the hedges. Power washed the patio. Bought new string lights for the backyard and helped her hang them across the fence. I even painted the old picnic table she wanted to throw out. She was glowing the whole week, like life was finally swinging back in her favor. Poor thing didn't know she was walking straight into a trap. A few days before the party, I printed out 20 copies of a little packet I'd put together. The first page? A high-res photo of her and the hitchhiker kissing at the rest stop. The second page? A transcript of their texts, highlighted, time-stamped, disgusting. The third page? A QR code that led to the audio file I'd labeled finalstraw.mp3. The rest of the pages were screenshots of her telling him how she wished she'd met him first, how she only stayed with me for the comfort and the house security. House security. That's what I was to her. Not a man. Not a partner. Just a stable investment. By the time the morning of the party arrived, I'd already slid the manila envelopes into a neat pile in my truck. She was in the kitchen, icing cupcakes and laughing at a podcast. I came up behind her, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "Happy birthday, babe." She turned and smiled, all sunshine and trust. "Thanks, honey. I hope people actually show up. You know how everyone's always so last minute." I gave her a wink. "Oh, I think they'll show up all right." Around 5 o'clock, people started arriving. Laughter, hugs, music. The grill was sizzling. The wine flowed freely. Emily floated around the backyard like a butterfly in a dress that used to make my heart race. And I stood off to the side, sipping a beer, watching her move through the crowd like she had it all under control. Right around sunset, I struck. I walked casually from group to group, slipping an envelope into each person's hands. Some opened them immediately. Others waited until later. But by the time her sister gasped loud enough for heads to turn, the fire had already started burning. Emily was talking to her coworker near the cooler when her dad walked up, envelope in hand, eyes hard. "What the hell is this?" he asked. She turned. "What?" He held up the packet like it was radioactive. "Is this some kind of joke?" Her smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" Then another voice, her friend Jenna. "Emily, what is this?" Then her sister, "Tell me this isn't real." "Oh my God, Em." Emily's face drained of color. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I stepped up beside her. "I gave them the truth," I said quietly. She turned to me like she didn't recognize me. What did you do?" "What you were too much of a coward to do," I said. I told the truth. One by one, people began walking away. Awkward glances. Disgusted expressions. Some dropped their envelopes onto the ground like they were toxic. Others just left without a word. Emily stood frozen, the party collapsing around her like a slow-motion explosion. The string lights buzzed. The music played. But all the warmth had drained out of the air. And there I was, standing in the wreckage of her perfect day. She stared at me, voice trembling. "You ruined everything." I nodded, calm. "No. You did that. I just brought the receipts." She looked like she might slap me. Or collapse. Maybe both. Instead, she turned and walked inside, her bare feet thudding softly against the patio. I let her go. Let her stew. Let her feel what it's like to be humiliated in front of everyone you ever lied to. I stayed outside as the last of the guests drove off. The yard was quiet again. Just the way I liked it. The silence in the house after everyone left felt like a vacuum, thick, pressing, almost alive. I closed the back door softly behind me, kicked off my boots, and walked through the mess of deflated balloons and half-eaten cupcakes. Emily was in the dining room, slouched in a chair, staring at nothing with her hands limp in her lap. The queen of the evening, reduced to rubble. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. "You want to talk about it?" I asked. She turned her head slowly toward me. Her eyes were swollen, rimmed red. Her makeup had run in little rivers down her cheeks. "You had no right," she whispered. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her, elbows on the table. "Didn't I?" Her lip trembled. "That was private." I scoffed. "You mean your affair? The one you bragged about in our house? The one where you told that stranger I was clueless and spineless?" "Yeah, no, that didn't stay private for long. I was drunk," she spat. "I didn't mean half the things I said." I leaned in. "So, which half did you mean? The part where you called me just convenient, or the part where you said he made you feel alive again?" She pushed back in her chair, rattling the legs against the floor. "You humiliated me in front of my family. You embarrassed me in front of everyone." I tilted my head. "So now you know how I felt. When I heard you laughing about sleeping with that guy. When I realized the woman I married had been replaced by someone I couldn't trust anymore." She stood up fast, knocking her wine glass over. It rolled off the table and shattered. We both stared at it. "That party," she said, voice low, almost choking, "that was supposed to be special. I planned it for weeks. And you turned it into some kind of revenge circus." "No," I said calmly. "You turned it into that the second you took that man into your car, and then into your heart." Her chin quivered. For a split second, I thought she might fall to her knees. But instead, she drew in a deep breath and straightened. "Where do we go from here?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I stood up too, collected and quiet. "Wherever you go, it's not with me." Her eyes widened. "You're kicking me out?" I didn't say anything. Just walked over to the hallway closet and pulled out the suitcase I'd packed for her earlier that day. Her essentials. A couple changes of clothes. Toiletries. Wallet. Keys. Everything else could stay. I didn't want it. Not the memories, not the perfume-scented pillows, not the apologies she hadn't even bothered to offer. She stared at the suitcase, stunned. "You already packed this?" I nodded. "Yep." "You planned all of this?" "Yep." She took a step forward, then stopped. "Where am I supposed to go?" I shrugged. "Call him. The guy from the ride. Maybe he's got room in that little motel room of his." Her face twisted into something ugly. For once, she had nothing clever to say. I opened the front door. "Goodbye, Emily." She stood there a second longer, searching my face for some hint of softness. There was none. She picked up the suitcase and walked out. No tears. No drama. Just a quiet exit into the night she thought she'd never have to face. I closed the door behind her, clicked the lock, and turned off the porch light. And for the first time in months, I slept like a baby. The next morning, I woke up to a house that felt bigger than I remembered. Quieter, too. No curling iron buzzing from the bathroom, no footsteps padding across the floor in a rush to get to work. Just the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the wall clock in the kitchen. It was peaceful, and yet, not. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space beside me. Her pillow still had that faint scent of lavender and shampoo. I picked it up, thought about tossing it out the window, then just dropped it on the floor and got up. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I'd already done my grieving before I ever handed out those envelopes. That part of me, the part that clung to the idea of her, had already died the night I came home early and heard her laughing about how she cheated on me with some hitchhiker she barely knew. What kind of woman does that? And worse, what kind of woman brags about it? I spent most of that morning cleaning up the wreckage of her birthday party. Half-melted candles, wine stains on the tablecloth, deflated balloons that looked more like shrunken heads than decorations. I found one of the envelopes someone had dropped in the grass, still sealed. I sat down on the porch step and opened it, even though I knew what was inside. Her betrayal, printed in ink. Proof of what I'd felt for weeks but hadn't dared admit. I stared at that photo of her and the hitchhiker for a long while. Her eyes were closed, lips locked with his, hands gripping his jacket like she couldn't get enough. And to think, she did that in public, on the side of the road, in broad daylight. She didn't just cheat. She chose to. That afternoon, her sister called me. I didn't pick up at first, but she kept calling. Eventually, I answered. I don't know what to say, she began, her voice cracking. I had no idea she was capable of something like that. She's your sister, I said flatly. You probably saw more of the real her than I ever did. She's not always like this. Maybe not to you. There was a long pause. She's staying with our parents, she finally said. Crying all the time. Keep saying she messed everything up. She did. I think she wants to talk to you. Well, I don't want to talk to her. Another silence. I'm sorry, she whispered. You didn't deserve this. I thanked her and hung up. A part of me wanted to ask if Emily had been with him, the hitchhiker, but I didn't. I didn't care anymore. Whether he ghosted her or she realized too late that he wasn't husband material, it didn't matter. She chose a moment of excitement over a life we'd built together. That night, I poured myself a whiskey and sat on the back porch, watching the stars creep in. Funny thing about stars, they're always there, even when you can't see them. Kinda like the truth. I ignored it for a long time, tried to believe things were fine. But deep down, I always knew something was off. The late-night phone calls. The way she pulled away from my touch. The sudden bursts of laughter while texting someone she refused to name. I just didn't want to believe it. Now, I had no choice. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. I almost declined, but something told me to answer. A male voice, soft and shaky, "Is this Emily's husband?" I froze. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "My name's Travis. I think we need to talk." "Travis," I said slowly, gripping the phone tighter. "You're the guy Emily gave a ride to." Another long pause. Then, "Yeah. That's me." I stood up, the chair creaking behind me. "You've got some nerve calling me." "I know, man. I know. And I'm not calling to start anything. I didn't know she was married. I swear. I didn't say anything. Just let him keep talking. She told me she was separated. Said her husband was cold, distant. Said she needed to feel something again. He laughed bitterly. She was real convincing. And I was stupid. We hooked up, and I thought maybe there was something there. I looked out at the dark yard, wind rustling through the trees. Why are you telling me all this now? Because I saw that photo, he said. My buddy sent it to me. Said it got passed around on Facebook. You exposed her. I did. She showed up at the motel a few nights ago. She looked awful. Said she had nowhere else to go. She cried a lot. Said she lost everything. Let me guess, she wanted you to take her in? Yeah. And I told her no. His voice cracked. I'm not proud of what happened. But I'm not a homewrecker, man. I didn't know. I sat back down slowly, heart still thudding in my chest. So where is she now? I don't know. She left that night. Took her bag and walked off down the road. I haven't seen her since. We sat in silence for a moment, two strangers tied together by one woman's choices. I just wanted you to know, Travis said quietly. I'm sorry. I'm not the one you need to say that to. And with that, I ended the call. I stared at the phone for a long time, feeling nothing and everything all at once. Days passed. Then weeks. Emily didn't call. Didn't text. Her parents showed up once to pick up some of her stuff. They didn't say much, just avoided eye contact and left as fast as they came. I started living again. Cleaned the garage. Got a dog from the shelter. Started taking long drives on Sundays with the windows down and old country songs playing through the radio. I even reconnected with a few friends I'd let drift away over the years. Told them everything. No shame. Just truth. One afternoon, I found myself at the same intersection where I guessed she must have picked up Travis. That quiet stretch of highway where it all started. I parked the truck on the shoulder and sat there, watching cars roll by. And I realized something. Her betrayal hurt. Hell, it nearly broke me. But it didn't define me. She made her choices. I made mine. And in the end, I didn't need to burn down her world or scream her name through the streets. I just had to show her who I became without her. A man who learned. A man who healed. A man who forgave, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I took one last look at that road, then turned the key and pulled away. And just like that, I left her behind.